What is going on, Diablo 2 fans? Dabrunsky here, and today's build video is about a character that I was messing around with on Twitch that I honestly thought was a meme, but with a lot of experimentation I was able to achieve the exact same damage, well I shouldn't say the exact, very similar damage to a two-handed max strength Breath of the Dying Warpike Zealot. So I got 4,000 to 21,000 damage on an Avenger build. This is definitely an interesting character. The skill Vengeance itself actually has some really weird kind of mechanics that either increase its damage or don't affect it, so I will cover that in today's video. But again, like all my previous build videos, I will have timestamps in the description below, so if you guys want to navigate between certain segments of the video, they're there for you guys to use, so please take advantage of them. And also a quick reminder before we jump in, just want to let you guys know that if you do enjoy my YouTube content, I do stream twice a week on Twitch. So any follows on that platform would be very much appreciated. Got the link for my Twitch channel in the description below as well. That being said, guys, let's jump in. So the very first thing that I want to do is quickly discuss what does and does not boost Vengeance. Now on paper the skill looks very powerful because you can read a fully synergized tooltip of it adding like 460% lightning, cold, and fire damage to your physical attack. That sounds very powerful, but in reality there's only a certain number of attributes on weapons or gear that actually boost Vengeance damage. So the kind of basic explanation of how the skill works is, let's say you strike with 100 damage, and you have 70% lightning, cold, and fire multiplied from Vengeance. That's going to add 70 lightning, 70 cold, and 70 fire to that 100 physical damage. Now where things get interesting is what actually does boost Vengeance and what doesn't. I'm going to throw up on the screen, you guys can pause the video if you want a full breakdown, but there's certain aspects or skills that do and don't actually apply a buff. And it's really interesting because the plus X damage, that's the huge kind of standout here point, is that Grief does not apply a massive shit ton of damage to Vengeance, so it's actually not the best weapon choice in my opinion with this build. Now one of the big things that you need to determine when you're trying to build out an Avenger is how much you want to tip the scales towards being all physical, all elemental, or a healthy balance in between. Now I do want to say that I tested a full Conviction aura with an Act 2 Mercenary setup. I tested a Fanaticism Act 1 Mercenary with full Conviction, and then I did test going full Fanaticism and having an Act 2 Mercenary with Infinity. That I found was the best balance of overall damage. Again, let me know in the comment section below if you guys have tried anything different, but definitely all the experimenting I did, I felt like the best approach to building Avenger was to go kind of right down the middle of being physical and elemental hybrid. So moving on to the attributes, again, this is very straightforward for any Paladin build. I went with a max block approach. Because the Holy Shield is such a powerful skill, you really should not spec anything else on any Paladin unless maybe you're running a weird two-handed Zealot Paladin, which, just a hint, that build video might be coming down the pipeline. So I just have enough strength to equip my gear, enough dexterity to reach 75% max block rate after I have Battle Command and Holy Shield activated, and then everything else I put into Vitality, so very straightforward Paladin setup as far as the attributes go. Now as far as the skill tree goes, it's not actually that crazy. So starting off with the offensive auras, I have 1 hard point into all of the prerequisites for Fanaticism, and then I put 20 hard points into that aura. Again, like I mentioned earlier, I have tried max Conviction setups with an Act 1 Faith Mercenary, and then I've tried a max Conviction setup with an Act 2 Might Mercenary, and I really do feel like this truly is the best setup. Again, let me know in the comment section below if you guys agree or disagree. Now as far as the combat skill tree goes, I have 1 hard point into all the prerequisites for Holy Shield, and then the same for Vengeance, and then I put 20 hard points into Vengeance. Now for the defensive aura skill tree, I unlocked Redemption. Now a lot of people might think this is a weird skill to unlock, but it really is pretty good with the Avenger because this is a super mana intensive character, especially when you play on higher difficulty settings. It's about 12 mana per strike with Vengeance, so you really chew through that if you're not killing monsters. Like if you're doing multiple hits, especially on bosses, you kind of chew through your mana and you need to pot up. But just that ability to throw on that Redemption aura to replenish your mana or life globes is really nice. And then once I unlocked Redemption, I put 20 hard points into Resist Lightning, 20 hard points into Resist Salvation, and then I put all of my remaining points into Resist Cold. Now these are damage synergy buffs for Vengeance, but the reason why I went Resist Lightning and Salvation is because the gear with this setup is using Dual Dream, so that maximizes the damage output from the Holy Shock aura as much as possible. And then I feel like it makes most sense to put your remaining points into Resist Cold to boost the cold damage and Vengeance, because if you're running areas like Chaos Sanctuary, there is just a ton of fire immunity. So Resist Fire is boosting the fire portion of Vengeance, but Diablo 2 just has this problem with being way too many fire immunes in Hell difficulty. So I really do feel like that was the best appropriate use of the defensive skill points. So as far as the gear goes, things get really interesting. It's quite the balancing act with the Avenger, trying to balance IS breakpoints, having enough plus skills to really boost Vengeance, but also not entirely ignoring physical, but not also going completely physical, because then you're ignoring a substantial elemental supplement to your overall damage. So this is kind of what I came up with. Again, a lot of theory, crafting, and testing on Twitch. Let me know if you guys agree or would tweak the gear at all, but this is a dual dream hybrid setup. So starting off with the helmet and the shield, I am rocking a dual dream setup. I really feel like this complements the Avenger really good because you need to invest points into resist lightning and salvation anyways to boost the overall damage of Vengeance. So it's just getting extra supplemental lightning damage to your Vengeance attack, so that's why I went dual dream. Now for the weapon, I do truly believe this is the single best in-slot weapon because we talked about how percent ED on the weapon increases Vengeance damage. Breath of the Dying has a ton of it and Grief doesn't. So dual leech, lots of enhanced damage, IS for breakpoints, the additional attributes, the Poison Nova procs when you kill an enemy looks really cool for style points. This, I think, is the best choice, and then I went with a Berserker Axe because I feel like it's just the best complement to a shield. Now for the armor, I went with Enigma. I was experimenting with charging setups when I was carrying the Conviction Aura myself, but I really do think that in order to reposition the Mercenary to get that Concentration Aura active on monsters to boost your Vengeance damage, I just feel like that teleport is too good to just pass up on. And also the percent ED on Fortitude doesn't boost Vengeance damage. It does boost your physical portion, but doesn't boost Vengeance. So this way I get to teleport to reposition, plus skills to again boost Vengeance and melee damage from boosting Fanaticism. I just feel like it was a better combination. And for the jewelry, I went with High Lords, a Ravenfrost Ring, and Bull Cathos. Now I have Mana Leech on the weapon, so BK Ring is an extra skill to boost Vengeance, Life Stolen per hit, Ravenfrost is for Cannot Be Frozen, and then High Lords, I am getting Deadly Strike, which does apply to the physical portion, additional skill, and IS, so I feel like that was a good choice. And the belt went with the Arachnid's Mesh, again for getting a additional plus skill for Vengeance, and also FCR because I do teleport on the offhand with this setup. So with the FCR I have on Spirit and Arachnid's Mesh, I hit a pretty decent breakpoint. And the gloves, I wasn't really quite sure what to go with. I was going to use Drax gloves for life tap for survivability. That way I would kind of like never die when I'm surrounded, but the Mercenary is using a crowd control helmet, which the curses would interfere with each other. So that's why I went with Laying Hands. Then the offhand, CTA, and Spirit combo. And then for the inventory, I have different assorted max damage, attack rating, plus life charms. And I do have a torch and an Annie. Now for the boots, I went with Gore Riders. I did experiment with War Travelers because that 10 to 25 damage does boost the Vengeance damage, but it actually only adds about 600 to 700 elemental damage. So I kind of had to weigh out what did I think was better, having some Crushing Blow for bosses and then Deadly Strike for the physical portion of this build, or getting an extra 600 elemental damage. So I feel like Gore Riders was honestly just a better overall choice. Now for the Mercenary, I went with an Act 2 Might Mercenary to boost my physical damage, and then I gave him Infinity for the Conviction Aura, and then for the helmet, he's using Delirium for the 11% chance to cast Confuse on striking. Now prior to a patch fix, there used to be a really annoying bug that would crash your game if the Mercenary would jab at the same time as the Confuse Curse, or maybe it's the Confuse Curse or switching into the Delirium, the little doll fetish. I'm not really sure which one, but it would crash the game. That's no longer an issue. So pairing Delirium with Chains of Honor, he has pretty solid damage, capped res, life leech, Conviction Aura to support my elemental damage, and then you'll see that the Confuse on striking procs all the time, which adds a lot of really good crowd control. Monsters will just attack each other instead of attacking you, which I think pairs pretty well with the fact that this is kind of a single target move from monster to monster. You don't have like Zeal, you're not striking multiple targets, you're not whirlwinding through stuff. So making sure you have crowd control, I think really complements the build quite well. So finally, we'll wrap everything up by doing a Chaos Sanctuary run. I'm going to, I think, do 2 runs. I'll do a Players 1 and then a Players 3 difficulty, and then maybe we'll jump up to P8. This is not a hammered in. It can't just slay through Players 8, but I do think if you compare it to other powerful melee builds, that the clear speed is quite similar, or honestly, maybe even a little bit better. Now, I did compare it to a Fury Druid, so it wasn't probably the best comparison, but it's kind of similar to a Zealot. I'm just going to say it right now. You guys may agree or disagree, but with the right proper gear, it is actually pretty good. So I teleport on the offhand to get a faster breakpoint, and we'll switch to the main hand. So this is with the Fanaticism, and having that Conviction Aura from the Mercenary, and the odd just teleport to reposition. I don't really have any mana issues yet, there's no mana barons or anything, but this would be an opportunity where I would switch to Redemption, just to get that mana recovery. It's really just telestop, and then move from single target to single target. Now I hope that we can get... And that decrep hurts, but you see how there was a physical immune there? I don't really have any issues with phys immunes, obviously, having a ton of elemental damage. But I do want to get a couple confused procs from the Mercenary, hopefully. Now because we can't leech off the undead, you can kind of see like I'm struggling a little bit with mana. So when I run out here, from Redemption, just to replenish the globe. I mean, you can just repetitively pot, but I guess maybe I'm a lazy player and I like just having that ability to just flip on Redemption. There, and just recover all my mana. Gonna insert a little random here. I hope someday they add a loot filter to this game, so I don't have to toggle the loot filter showing, or the loot showing on and off, because sometimes it does get a little extreme. So there's a confused proc, which is nice. You'll get to see the confused proc go off a little bit more frequently when we jump up to P3, because stuff won't die like as fast. Check the ring out later. But definitely on P1. Just one tap and stuff. Now this is where you'll see kind of the clear speed sort of comes to a screeching halt, is that it's definitely not the best on bosses. Like in my opinion, that's a pretty slow P1 kill. Now we'll do another chaos run, we'll go players 3. You guys will get to see like the confused curse go off a little bit more frequently, a little bit slower clear speed. But again, if you're comparing this to like a frenzy barbarian, like a really good frenzy barb on P3, I don't think there's a big clear speed difference. If anything, I think that the Avenger might have a little bit better clear speed than a frenzy barb. Now, I'm not a big fan of a frenzy barb. I don't think it's a very powerful build outside of Ubers, but so P3, things slow down a little bit. But we get that confused curse on striking. And I really do think that it suits the build pretty good, because when you're just single target slapping stuff, getting that curse to go off and provide some crowd control is nice. Gonna insert in here again another random. Wouldn't a loot filter be nice? But we'll put on Redemption. So I think and here's a physical immune with just a couple extra hits, but so much elemental damage, it's not a problem. I do think that just the biggest thing holding this build back is just you don't have a way of like Fury striking multiple targets and Zeal striking multiple targets. So I'm not really sure if there's a way to get around that. I don't think that there is. It's just the nature of the skill, just like single target striking. Really cool though, the Poison Nova procs going off all the time. You can kind of see a difference here, but if there's a couple small targets, it's not really a big deal, but you can kind of see how you do, in a sense, get bogged down when there's a lot of targets. Like, you'll see that when we get to Infector here. You really do start to get bogged down. I just love that toggle. Get redemption on. And there, as soon as the Confused Curse goes off, the monsters start attacking each other, gives us a little bit of breathing room. Now this will be a pretty slow, like boss clear speed is not the best. You see how I've now run out of mana? That's what I was talking about, how having that... It's just a very mana-intensive skill, and you just can't really leech back against bosses. You just have to pot, which it's not really that big a deal. But yeah, guys, that wraps up everything that I wanted to cover for the Avenger. Now, I do think, clearly, this is an expensive build, and it does suffer from lack of AoE. But let's be entirely honest, every melee build suffers from lack of AoE outside of maybe Whirlwind Barbarian, and I guess a Stormlash kicking Kixing with static field procs, and I guess, yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just a generic problem that melee builds have, but this is a fun build if you want to play something different and kind of have some cool style points, and there's definitely a lot of different ways you can spec it as well. Like I said, Act 1 Faith Fanaticism Mercenary, Act 2 Mercenary with you using Conviction, or an Act 2 Mercenary with you using Fanaticism and having an Infinity Mercenary. So a lot of different ways to build it, but I don't think you can deny that... Okay, my buffs are down a little bit, but you do have 21,000 damage when you're fully synergized with this setup. So can't deny it doesn't have damage. That wraps up everything I wanted to cover, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. As always, if you guys could throw a like on it, share it, and even consider subscribing if you're new to my channel. I post new weekly content on YouTube, and I do stream twice a week on Twitch. So any follows on Twitch or subs on YouTube would be amazing. Other than that, guys, hope you have a fan-frickin-tastic day. I'll catch you on my next video or live stream. Peace out.